So podcast listeners, the Minneapolis BLM founder has decided that he rejects critical race theory and the whole BLM nonsense. So in the Daily Wire, the founder of Black Lives Matter in St. Paul says, "I resigned after I learned the ugly truth as an insider of BLM." Rashad Turner, the founder of Black Lives Matter chapter in St. Paul, Minnesota, revealed in a video published last week that he quit the organization after he learned the ugly truth while being an insider in the far left group. Turner made the remarks in a video published by Take Charge, a Black-led organization that rejects critical race theory and woke culture. In the video, Turner talks about his background and his life and how it is that he got into the organization thinking it was going to be a good thing for Black people and for all people of color for that matter, and then realized actually it was antithetical to everything that he had accomplished in his life and that Black people need in order to accomplish in their lives. We have a piece of this clip, and here it is.
I believe the organization stood for exactly what the name implies. Black lives do matter. However, after a year on the inside, I learned they had little concern for rebuilding Black families, and they cared even less about improving the quality of education for students in Minneapolis. That was made clear when they publicly denounced charter schools alongside the teachers union. I was an insider in Black Lives Matter, and I learned the ugly truth. The moratorium on charter schools does not support rebuilding the Black family, but it does create barriers to a better education for Black children. I resigned from Black Lives Matter after a year and a half.
Yeah, so he resigned because he had gone to school. His grandparents raised him. Very common story in the Black communities, and unfortunately, but the grandparents raised him, really encouraged him to study and really encouraged education and enforced education. And so he made great sacrifices, as many of us do, and went to higher ed and graduated from college. Then realized that BLM wasn't really about the nuclear family, wasn't really about education, because they formed a partnership with the teachers union. And the teachers union, of course, very smartly partnered with BLM because they realized that they could convince the BLM leadership to not support charter schools or school choice. Can you imagine? The one thing, ladies and gentlemen, that would make Black lives matter in the United States of America would be school choice. Choosing the school that best fits your needs and having the public school dollars follow you to go to any school that you wanted to go to. And yet, the teachers union partnered with and allied with BLM leadership to convince them that the real reason they're being held down isn't because of the really crummy schools they go to in the inner cities, but the real reason they're being held down is because of systemic racism. And yet it's the teachers unions and the Democrat Party that is committing systemic racism on Black people in cities because they won't give them school choice. I mean, this is not hard. This isn't hard at all. And yet we finally have information from a single individual that was part of this group in Minneapolis, St. Paul, the BLM branch there, that's giving us information about what BLM is really about. It's not about making Black lives better. BLM is about Marxism. BLM is about political power. And there are so many of us who know that the way forward is education and the way forward is school choice. And we've talked about this many times in this podcast. But isn't it refreshing, ladies and gentlemen, to finally hear someone who was part of BLM, who left, and once left is talking openly with this video on YouTube about what really should matter in Black lives and what we're not doing? It's just fascinating.